And now I'm live. And now I just gotta add you. And then I think I don't dress up ever. Okay, so we'll see if we get on here. And then I can close this out. So I should have invited you. There you go. Hold on. I'm gonna exit out of this. There you go. Oh, okay. How you doing, bud?
Hello, hello. I'm closing the Zoom meeting because apparently that was not going well.
Not for audio.
Just so we're not being like a double feedback.
Oh, good God. I haven't, listen, the whole Zoom thing is very new. We usually do,
It's not.
it's
Sorry.
it's okay. It's just hell. Zoom is hell.
I haven't really been that impressed by watching other people on Zoom. My wife is on Zoom meetings pretty much every day these days because she's a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just meeting clients. She's meeting other lawyers. They're all talking to Zoom because of COVID. And I kind of wonder at the same time, is this really necessary? Couldn't they just do this over the phone? And probably have better sound quality?
You know,
But maybe they want to record it, you know, like visually so that they can improve it for some reason. I don't know. Maybe they just want the actual physical recording.
I think this,
Yeah, let's see if I can make myself look more handsome.
you can try. Good luck. I can't do it in my own. There's not enough good lighting to make my own self look. I look horrific. That's okay. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how being a father has changed your way of working, which, quite honestly, that's with every father if they're in the writing biz. They want to leave something for their children so that way that, hey, dad wasn't just scribbling, he actually did something that was cool. And just,
Well, yeah. After my son was born, like immediately after, and I would say maybe even like a little bit before he was born, I started writing fables. So it's just writing very short stories, like barely even that. Some of them were a bit longer, but I was writing fables basically for fun, and I started making like a whole collection of fables.
nice.
Uh, and to me, it was a bit of fun because I was writing fables set within my world. So they were basically the fables of the world itself.
Nice.
And I was researching other fables in terms of how they were designed, common themes. And I was basically looking at that and say, okay, well, this is what other people did. This is how they did it. How would this look in my world, and how would they do it differently? So I did everything from like ghost stories to like there's the jackalope stories, which I particularly enjoyed, and then I even did like a children's story, which is the Princess Octavia and the jackalope, or the foxalope, which I thought was a bit of fun. I wrote that one just for my niece
Well, hey,
as like a
quick question. Describe to me a foxalope. You got my attention on that. And I know there's fox furries out there.
okay. So if you're familiar with jackalopes are basically just rabbits with antlers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just pondered the idea of like, okay, well, what would a fox look like with antlers? And then that's it. You know, it's just fox running around with antlers.
Nice.
Now, because foxalopes are supposed to be more intelligent and things like that, so it was fun to do so that they were actually talking to the other characters, and I could have fun with that. Now, on top of that, because I wrote that particular thing for my niece, my sister has done this thing where she's like, you know, raising her niece with all these foxes. She's got toy foxes. She got books about foxes. She has clothes with foxes on it. So I would say, okay, well, you know, whatever I write should have a fox in it. So that's how they came up with the idea of the foxalope, because I wanted it to have a fox in there somewhere. And then I'm not going to say my niece's name, but let's just say that Octavia,
Mm-hmm.
Princess Octavia, her name rhymes at least with my niece's name. So it was a case of like I wanted it to sound a little bit like her own name, so that maybe she identified with the princess as she like reads the story when she's older.
You know,
And then, yeah.
so I dig the okay. So in cultures, foxes are like now the whole furry thing. Foxes are probably one of the coolest creatures I know of because the kitsune in Japanese culture is like a fox demon. I use that in my own writing, so that's why it was funny that you brought up a fox. Now, let me steer towards your books. So I tried to start reading the first one. I admit it was like having to step into an entire different world, and before you even go into it, you kind of want to open up a user's manual. And that's not a bad thing either. You actually want to understand what you're reading. So boom, you look at the map. If you don't look at the map, you don't get it. But when you look at the map, like, okay, they're here, they go here, this is here. Okay, so I have a visual. So that visual, I must say, even with the cover, does really give the reader a sense of where they are. And a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people have to guess what the tree looks like to you. You actually painted it out, which is impressive. But that's how I felt going through it. I got immersed, but by first understanding what was given to me. So you basically give me a map and told me there's the treasure. So I had to go find it. And the pages are the treasure.
Okay.
That's how it feels reading your book. So my question to you is, why did you put the map? Why did you put so much like visual detail as well?
Honestly, I think the map was one of the first things I actually made when I created the world back around 1999. So it was basically a case of the map came before the characters
Nice.
and the plot. Now, just to clarify, which book were you reading?
The very first one, the first series. Give me a sec. I can tell you in a minute. I have it on my Kindle. That's online. So.
Was it the Rathgar book or the Wolfric book?
Oh, geez. Don't. I'm not saying yet. Give me a second. Just let me look. Because I'm reading it right now. Oh my gosh. It's good too. Oh, damn. My kid has my. Oh no, I'm on my phone. Hold on.
Is it Portal of Destiny or the Assassin's Trail?
That might be it. Is the cover guy with like black hair, a wolf in the back right here, and the beard? It was supposed to be your first one.
Yeah, that's Assassin's Trail.
Yeah. See, I like it because you bring up the fact of almost a not a utopian feeling. Okay, so basically you bring back the idea of man, woman, and doesn't matter, all equal at a nature-based level. That's what I liked. It wasn't straight barbarian or druid. It was just in between. Hi, Sight. Whoa, Sight. You need pants on, buddy. Oh, hold on one sec. Sight, you need pants on, buddy.
Oh dear. Hello, other people watching. Jaeger bomb? Is that Jaeger bomb or Jaeger bomb?
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. My little guy is autistic, so he was just trying to see what I was doing.
Well, they're very curious. They don't have to.
He's a good one.
They just need a reason.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I like the way you write. It's intriguing, and but you don't want to sit there and blast through it. You want to actually absorb it, which is a good thing, but a hard thing. Does that make sense?
I would feel that that's kind of how I write when I'm reading. That's kind of how I read in the first place. I'm one of those people who, when I'm reading, I will kind of read a paragraph, and I will sometimes read it over again by accident, or I'll read the one sentence, and I'll read the sentence over again. And so I'm a very slow reader in that respect. So maybe that's just me and the way that I read leaking into my writing. I don't know.
Well,
I haven't really explored that.
Well, honestly, it's not a criticism. It's actually more of a compliment. So, for instance, Dan Brown, every page is a cliffhanger. Once you get to the very end, that's it. Anne Rice, Anne Rice's whole freaking problem is, I would now stay with a white stucco fence like for 4 pages. No, that's too much detail. Some people need the imagery, sometimes we need it. Stephen King. Enough said. Oh, but
Depends what you're reading there with Stephen King.
I'm not a fan.
Like he has a lot of different stuff.
I'm not a fan. I just think he's involved and he's a little. I think he's done more than he says. I worry about what he has actually done. But
his older stuff, he admits he was doing drugs at the time, and he doesn't remember half of the stuff he wrote during that time period.
Like I said, if you're doing drugs and you don't remember, you probably did some stuff that you don't want anyone knowing about. I don't want to know about it either. The point is, when you go into, the book It, and it's a bunch of kids that probably like 12 saying even though they're about to die, they're going to have sex. Dude, to write that, you got to have limits. As any writer, you have a limit to what you integrally do. If you write that, you're A, sexually attracted to it, which is already fucked. Or B, you're so lost in your own fictional world, you are trying to get people to be mad about it, but you're not actually caring about what is actually outwardly pointing towards yours. Like, for instance, I will never put something exactly as I see it in this world. I will put in a fantasy version because I'm not making a direct hit at anyone. When you directly basically put it out like that, it's like, ooh. But see, that's why you got authors like Lovecraft who sit there, make a whole archetype, make a world, and then bring you into it slowly. That's what I was comparing you to. Not the sci-fi craziness, but the introduction to it. Like, you just showed me Arkham. Just the world of Arkham just by a few pages. And like I said, that's a good thing. Now, steer off a little backwards, because I know you can talk as much as I can. That's how writers are. How did you go from painting to writing? Which one was first?
Technically, the writing came first because I think it was about grade 5. I started writing all these like pirate stories. So I was writing I had characters in my head, and I was just like I started writing them as part of like school class projects and whatnot. So I started writing all these pirate stories, and by grade 7, they were like getting quite developed. And then right around grade 7 or 8, I started reading fantasy, and that's when I went from like writing these pirate stories, and then I was also to some extent writing science fiction at the time. So I went from pirate stories and science fiction to writing fantasy pretty much exclusively. And I haven't really looked back much since then. I just kept writing fantasy thereafter. Now I did earlier this year finish writing a action adventure story that happens during the apocalypse. It's not a post-apocalyptic story. It happens right before and during the apocalypse. So
I'm laughing.
I have to like differentiate that, because if I say it's an apocalyptic story, people get confused and they say, "Oh no, it's they think it's a post-apocalyptic story." And I was like, "No. The apocalypse hasn't happened yet at the beginning of the story."
Fair enough. That's not a bad concept, because at the end of the day, be like, okay, so how's the story start off? Well, he's already fucked. Oh, okay. So he's in a fucked up situation. Yep, world's ending. So how's the book end? Well, he fixes the problem. Yeah, the world's still fucked. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, the hero survived, but the world's still screwed up.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that first the Mad Max movie, Road Warrior. If you remember that one, society was still existing at the very first Mad Max movie, and he was technically a cop at the beginning, and then by the end, cop. But when you could see the second Mad Max movie, then society is completely collapsed. So you're just like, oh well, he went from being a cop, and the world is kind of like falling apart, but the society was still working. And then the second movie, you're like, oh wait, society has now collapsed. Okay, everybody's now basically road pirates, attacking you and for your food and supplies.
You know what? Honestly, there's two things I want to say because I remember Battle Dome was awesome, and I seen all of them. The endings of Mad Max are crazy. So I want to touch on some things before I forget. One with the pirates. Have you ever tried in Dungeons and Dragons the swashbuckler wisdom build, where it's basically just wisdom all day long?
No, I have not.
Okay, it's bullshit.
It's not.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit,
Uh,
but it's awesome.
No, have not seen that build myself. I'll admit with Dungeons and Dragons, I tend to play fighter types or more often rangers. And it's really a case of I just enjoy playing fighter types. Now, they're not that I can't play a war, like a cleric or a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do those things, but there are certain ones that I haven't played in such a long time. I kind of don't remember how to play them.
Right.
It's been decades since I played a bard. I think the last time I played with bard was like 1998 or thereabouts. So
Okay. Well, one.
I'm not really sure how to do it.
Well, don't worry because on the DM, that's what the shirt says. It's very worn.
Yeah.
I got that. Secondly, honestly, all classes go by this. Are you able to cast a spell or not? How many actions do you have? And if you're a fighter, how many times can you hit stuff? That's really how many times can you hit stuff? 5th edition, honestly, gave you a second wind. Here's the best way to get into the newest edition. Listen to a D&D podcast, like a 9 D&D podcast, Dungeon Daddies. They use 5th edition, and just listen to their verbiage and how they're playing. And then after that, you can just look at the rules. Honestly, I would easily do a game with you easily in a day because it wouldn't be that hard. You want to be a ranger? I have a whole freaking force. You can kill zombies all day and fucking make out with them if you want to do it. That's easy as hell. That's what 5th edition is now. It's easier to maintain and get moving. But I do, how do I word for it? I do like her. That's what I want to say. You have a old school 80s abstract, meaning it's not bright metallic colors. It's like a faded white. It's like you actually used white perfectly, which is hard to do because a true painter is told this. It's not done until all the white is gone. So to use negative space is almost impossible. So like, do you so you draw the picture and then draw it on the canvas and then paint it, or do you do full freeform?
It varies. I have done freeform paintings, and they look okay. I refer them to more as being like sketches. So, like, it might be on the canvas or it might be on an illustration board or some other material, but or even just like a large piece of paper that's like thicker than normal. But basically what I'll do is I'll just do like a large sketch, something like that, and I consider that to be a sketch because it's not really a finished piece in the normal respect. And then when I'm trying to do like something that I consider to be like a more professional painting, like this one over here, which is unfinished, you're getting to see an unfinished painting. I don't usually show these to people. It's a case of
you can't see that.
What I'm doing there.
You can't.
Let me see if I can show it to you better.
Okay, now
how does that work?
But see, that's old school though. That's old school art. Like the way you do your lines, way you paint. That's a more traditional way of painting. Whereas nowadays they use everything just quick, fast. Everything's like not planned out. It's here mixed together.
I've been working on this painting for since January last year.
Whoa.
So it is kind of a case of I've been working on it slowly, and I'll usually sit down like once a month or twice a month, and I'll work on like a little bit of it. It's still not done. I still have to add some red to her hair. She's supposed to have like red streaks in her hair. I need to go back and need to add green to the trees that are in there. Like, you look at this. These are all black and white trees right now, okay?
Listen.
You can see highlights on there.
Charles.
In her hair and the trees and everything. But there's no green.
Listen, it doesn't matter. If you showed me that and said, how much would it be, I would probably pay for it. Mind you, I'm broke as a joke, so I wouldn't pay for it now. But the point is, it's good, it's talented. See, that's the thing that amazes me about you. You are a multi-talented individual, not only with art, with writing. I haven't heard any music by you yet. Do you do music too?
I have a guitar, and I used to have a violin, but I gave it to my dad, and I kind of suck at pretty much all instruments except the harmonica.
Yes.
I can kind of play the harmonica a little bit. My uncle, I had this uncle Dave. He's dead now, but he used to be a competitive harmonica player. He would go to competitions to play the harmonica. So when he died, I got like a bunch of harmonicas that like were bequeathed to me.
Nice.
And then there was other ones that he'd given me earlier when he was still alive. So I just ended up with a bunch of harmonicas. There's really only two of those that I really like. There's the one really big one that like it's more expensive, I guess. And then there's the one small one that I would say that one's like more travel size. You can stick it in a pocket easily. It doesn't get the rich tones of the big one, but it's fun to just play with.
Okay. Have you seen the Blues Brothers movies?
I have seen at least two of them.
There's only two.
I don't know. Is there only two? They never made a third one?
Well, one of them died, and I think the other one's too old now.
Yeah, but I think what they did replace the one actor in the second one, didn't they?
Yeah, with a 12-year-old kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers 2000. It was a good movie, but awkward at times if you think about it. But sometimes, hey, sometimes you gotta have a smoke, you gotta have a drink, and just say fuck it, watch what you want to watch.
Yeah.
I know, is that
I like watching westerns these days. I find westerns are very enjoyable.
so?
Like I would watch an old western and I'll be like analyzing it for the plot. If you understand my meaning.
Isn't that the curse? Isn't that the curse when you create your own world that you can see how the narrative around you is working? Isn't that horrible, but also a blessing?
Well, it is a curse when you're watching a movie or a TV show and you're like, hey, this is predictable. I can predict what's going to happen. It's the brother. The brother's going to betray him. I know what's going to happen. And you're like, okay, I just ruined all of season 2 of Vikings. There you go.
Okay, so now, mind you, this is kind of how our program goes, to be honest with you. Technical failure, and then we eventually get something like this. So we are called Buzzin and Buds. The reason for that is I'm usually buzzing, and I'm usually talking to some buds. And then people are doing stuff. This is actually Delta hemp. It's very good and also really good for nerves, especially in the middle of the night when you're trying to get tech support to work. So it's hilarious. But everything's raw, everything's uncut. We just do whatever we can for people, you know? So, for instance, us going from Zoom to this, I'm leaving it in here and going to make this hilarious. But steering you to a new topic, how did you get into doing coding as you have done, like web paging? Was that for money?
Oh gosh, I had a friend in high school who kind of introduced me to GeoCities. This is really old. The fact that I was on GeoCities. GeoCities is one of these things was created before social networking became like a thing.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm just getting like some chocolate here that's left over.
Dude, you know, listen,
Halloween.
listen, do not make this into like something that's like a big deal. We are a small company. We don't sell anything. We're literally selfishly promoting our own work, and also promoting other people. I don't care. Listen, right here. I just wrote my second book, The Old Man. It's literally about a freaking evil motherfucking demonic man that literally has ripped people's eyes out, gives them to them, turns them into a creature, and it's all fucking Lovecraft horror. It's the first book in my secondary series. Literally. I can literally put that in any freaking context in any interview, and then the rest of it is your guys' platform. So if you want to go get some chocolate.
I would actually be curious to read that, mostly because I've been increasingly curious about like Lovecraftian-esque books lately. I don't know if I ever actually want to read the original Lovecraft stuff because
Oh, I will. Okay. Two things. One,
issues.
if you don't want to, I can just send you. Do you have Spotify?
I think I have an account that I haven't used in ages.
There is a podcast list that reads all of the Lovecraft stories, A through Z, all of them to you. I did that when I worked doing lawn care. I have read all of Lovecraft. It's phenomenal. The other things you have to look for are the what's it called? Like I have all the Necronomicon books. The fact is, both my series revolve around Lovecraft's world because you can take anything out of Lovecraft's world, like Azeroth, the Mad Thousand God. You can use them all day long. Like everything is world. He literally told the people, "Here's my world. Have fun." It's awesome.
It is a good thing to do.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Okay, so man, I'm just sending you a link for this. Yeah, because I was waiting for my cousin to send me a what's it called? A book cover. The old man. 'Cause the old man's supposed to have like giant black eyes like this, pupilless, a mouth that goes up like this, giant teeth, like friggin' balding hair, long hair.
These sharp teeth.
Yeah, like sharp motherfucking teeth. And he's always smiling with like pupilless eyes, and it like looks like he's almost like Bones wearing a skin rag, wearing like a toga and like a druid like staff, and he looks freaky. Like looks like Father Time went on acid and never came off, and it's like really disturbing. But that's the point. He's supposed to be disturbing. One of the images is him actually taking the girl that basically tried to summon him once and bashing her brains into a keyboard, and then looking at the characters through the computer screen and be like, "I got 2 days before I burst through your walls." Like that's the Lovecraftian horror shit that I do. And then the other side is where you do fantasy, but with that Lovecraftian horror just snuck in right through with a little shovel right underneath the pot.
Yeah, it's odd that you bring that up because I just finished running a Lovecraftian dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons Online.
Nice.
Sorry, not Dungeons and Dragons Online. Sorry, I was playing online because of COVID. So I'm running the game in Roll20.
Nice.
And then, so we've been playing the game online since March, thanks to COVID.
Well,
and every year I will do like a Halloween-themed adventure. And this year I chose Lovecraftian stuff. So I had the Illithid, or the Squid Man,
yep,
as I like to call them. And I had various other monsters that were all themed related to
Did you use a chul?
Pardon?
Did you use a chul? They're like lobster-looking monsters. They work for I think they're Quanti. They're like the fish people. You have the chul that are servants to the fish people, look like walking lobsters, and then they like when in the background of the monster manual it actually shows like a demon-like thing.
No, I didn't end up using anything like that. What I did use instead was the Umber Hulk.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the Umber Hulk is that, because I'm running this in the second edition, the eyes of the Umber Hulk have this like mesmerizing effect, so that people see it, and then they get confused, and it causes them to kind of go crazy temporarily. And so there's like a 25% chance that they just stand there confused. There's a 25% chance that they attack their allies.
Nice.
And then there's two other options, and I forget what they are right now. But it's kind of one of those things that, like, when you put it in a game,
yeah,
it can make for some interesting stuff.
So, first off, before I like spooge all over my keyboard over this question, but I'm right. So, Dungeons & Dragons Online actually went to allow you a dungeon master to make a dungeon and have his friends go in it?
No, sorry. That was Roll20. I said the wrong words.
Okay, no.
So I was playing Dungeons & Dragons Online.
On Roll20.
Meaning that I was playing it on Roll20.
Okay, no. That's fine, because Dungeons & Dragons Online was talking about doing this, but didn't do it. I thought they did it. All right. That's fine. Now,
yeah, that's something they never got around to doing, was allowing people to create their own dungeons within that game.
It's been talked about, but I don't know if they ever implemented it. I have to go back and actually look. Now, let me sidetrack, because at one part of the video, I raised my hands like this, pumping my fist when you said that you weren't a good musician. I want to tell you why I did that. Because when I looked at your art, when I looked at your abilities, and when I looked at all your books, I'm sitting there like this. He's got about everything ahead of me, and he's technically competition, so I'm already fucked. So basically, well, here's the thing too. You're also good with a bow, and I don't have practice with my bow, so I'm like, he's already got the bow. So it's actually funny because what you've achieved right now, I know this, you might find this flattering and stuff. I hope to achieve and have that done. You've written way more than I plan to. I have 12 books, and then I'm out and I'm done. Oh yes, oh yes, yes. See, I'm in my.
More bows.
I know.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least 6 bows up there. I have so many bows. It's ridiculous.
So what you're.
But I've been doing that. I've been doing archery for 31 years, so that's hard to compare to.
No, I know. I mean, that's why I'm saying that. For instance, I do music. I do art. I'm not a good artist. Apparently I'm a good painter, but I think I'm shit. If you see the link I sent you, the cover art is actually the painting that I did. And that painting I want to replace with my cousin's drawing if it's good enough and scary enough. But people say I'm good at painting. I personally don't. I don't care, but I worked on music before I worked on art, and then I decided I don't want to tour. Nowadays, if I want to be a musician, it'd probably be easier. All I have to do is stay here and just play on my phone. But, I mean...
Well, it worked for Justin Bieber.
No, the cabal worked for Justin Bieber. The cabal...
the young teenage girls worked for Justin Bieber.
Well, who do you think runs the cabal? Their fathers. Okay, so... All right. So here's a question. How do you... Yeah, and you don't have to go too deep in this, but how do you keep the lights on? I mean, being a writer, the chance of making any monetary gain is like finding a fly coming out of your asshole with a golden ticket. It's very rare.
Well, most of my money actually comes from teaching archery, so that's a big thing. However, within that is the caveat that I am probably the highest paid archery instructor in Canada. So I just charge a ridiculous amount of money for my lessons.
Fair.
And people are looking at that and like, oh, he charges a lot of money. He must be really good. And it helps that I actually am really good. And then once people have the lessons, like, oh, I want more. So I get them addicted to archery. And they're like, oh, he's actually really good at this. I want more lessons. This is good. And it helps also, I think, that I do actually make it fun. So when people are actually doing it, they're like, oh, okay, this is fun. I'm learning something. And it ends up being very valuable to them. Not all archery instructors do that.
Okay, so let me ask you a question now. Being that you are in Canada, so I want to tread carefully. Can I ask about your opinion about what's going on with the person who leads Canada, or should we change that subject? Because I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't know how your social media is witnessed.
I try to avoid political topics completely.
Okay.
As far as social media goes, okay. I try to avoid it as much as possible.
Okay.
It's sometimes it's unavoidable. You're like, wow, how did that happen?
No. What we can do is I would like put it this way. Everyone I've interviewed, Go Vega. I talked to him about tech support because he needs it. I consider him a friend. A few other ones I've done, I consider a friend. I like to keep talking to. Me and you, we could probably talk about that in private about how we feel things are in the world and what we can do. Not only as writers, but as also like people who go out there and try to inform people. My entire book series is just about informing people of the little things that are right in front of them. That's my only way of doing it. Just like with you, you probably have written some things that probably could help people, but you're just trying to plan out how to put it out there. But I don't like to put that out there into the world until it needs to be released. Does that make sense?
I am definitely putting social commentary into my books, and I am often doing it in a way that I feel at least that people won't expect me to be doing it. So there's a book that I finished earlier this year that's coming out in March, and there's a lot of hunting in it. Oh no, hunting. Oh dear. Now at the same
Wait,
time,
hold
I
on.
put four vegans in the book.
Hold on.
There's four vegans in the book. Okay? It's not like I put one vegan in the book. I put four vegans in the book. And there's stuff that happens. There's murders, you know? It's a murder mystery book. So there's definitely commentary going on there. And, you know, like, it's basically people are trapped in this inn during the winter, and they're running low on food. They don't reach cannibalism states, but it is a case of, like, the one character, the main character, basically has to go out there and hunt for food because the vegans keep eating all the vegetables.
Okay, one.
It's just,
I want to state this now.
and it's not meant to be a comedy.
Listen, I be vegan, and I'll still go eat chicken if I got to. It's just whatever you got to eat to survive. We're not that bad. I'll say that. Two. Damn, dude. Now, this is a really good question because people don't realize the more you write, the more you want to make it authentic. When did you start doing actual research for your books? Like, when did you really start to get heavy into it?
I do research every day. I would say I do about an hour's worth of research every single day. And then part of that is I find inspirational. Like, I'll be watching something or reading something, and I will just be like, oh, that's a good idea. I like that idea. I'm going to write that one down. And then I'll write it down, and I'll put it in my notes, and then I probably won't look at it for months. And then eventually I might have, you know, or even years.
Oh, my.
I'll have a whole bunch of notes, and I'll say, like, oh, what if I put this idea with this idea, and then, like, merge the two and make something new? And so that happens. And so I'm just constantly researching new things. Like, and it'll be, like, food, history, various different wars, medical, armaments, languages. I just research everything, like, just culturally. One of the things I found very useful is actually tourism documentaries.
All right.
So I'll watch something like Rick Steves, you know, Rick Steves Europe, and he'll just be like, hey, we're in France. Let's go to this one part of France and do all this and this and this. So you'll get the taste of the food. You'll see the castles or the chateaus in France. And you'll see, like, okay, a canal that somebody built. And there's like, oh, there's a weird, you know, mill next to the canal. And I'll be like, oh, I like that canal. I like that mill. I could use that in a book. And then it just comes to me. And it's like, okay, now I could, like, and there will just be little things like that. It will build up over time.
So, have you ever wanted to put, like, a something from an idea that you've seen, like a comic or a TV show, you wanted to put it in, but then you realized no matter how you did it, you'd be copywriting and it just sucked? Have you ever had that moment?
Well, it depends what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Think of the wall from George R. R. Martin's books. Okay? Now, he based that wall on Hadrian's Wall in Scotland. Okay?
Yeah.
So he was ripping off Hadrian's Wall to create his wall. If I put a wall in a book, I'm not ripping off George R. R. Martin. I'm basically just copying every other wall that's ever been built. So the Berlin Wall, Hadrian's Wall. There's actually another wall, I forget what it's called, that's north of Hadrian's Wall that this one Roman emperor built up there, and then that apparently was a failure, and they ended up retreating back to Hadrian's Wall. Apparently the Scottish just wouldn't take it anymore. They were like, hey, you just keep building these walls and invading our land. We don't want no more walls.
So, let me ask you this. This is, since you're an archer, this actually makes sense. I'm just looking over it. There's nothing on the screen. There's basically bullshit here. I'm just, like, thinking, when you do archery, do you get almost like what they call like a void state of mind? That's what a Japanese call it. It's like you lose. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. Are you say you're at that?
Zenshin moment.
What's that?
A Zenshin moment. I can give you the spelling. Zen, and then shin, like, like on your leg.
Hold on.
So it's a Zenshin moment. I don't usually get them anymore. It's a fun thing. Like, I used to get them when I was younger. Like you'd be playing basketball and you just have like a moment and you throw it at the basket and it goes in and you kind of just knew it was going to go in. It was just like a perfect shot. It's what I've studied about it. It's kind of a superstitious belief that happens during the actual shot itself, and you see the arc. You see the arc of the ball going towards the basket, and you're like, "Hey, that's going to go in." And it's not necessarily that you knew ahead of time that it was going to go in, although maybe it felt good. Because you performed the shot well, but it's kind of just a superstitious thing that people do. So I don't actually get it anymore as an archer. I will nail shots on such a regular basis that I'm just like, okay, I nailed that shot.
Well,
let's do another one.
Well, that's the thing. What I was speaking of wasn't a superstitious belief. It's basically where you clear your mind of everything else and you just have complete focus on one thing. What you obtained is no need of focus or clearing your mind. You do it anatomically. So naturally, you're doing it. From a scientific standpoint, it'd be just like breathing or walking. But the idea is you want to put everything you have into treating it like walking or breathing. So like you just said, you turn archery into breathing. So that is that
okay.
State.
So I'm actually going to dispute that theory.
Fine.
Because here's the thing.
Yep.
When you're doing archery, you don't want to be focusing on one thing too much, because then you actually become distracted by that one thing. What you actually want is for your mind to flow from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, without any pausing in between. Okay?
So
you want to be able to just let your mind flow as if it is unfettered. And so I'm going to raise up a book here.
No, that's
called The Unfettered Mind, which I totally recommend reading.
No, this is the thing, Charles. I've read what is it? Book of Five Rings, The Life-Giving Sword, and The Unfettered Mind. Basically, the idea of doubt, almost Buddhism with the idea of killing. What you're saying is, I'm trying to say the same thing, but I didn't use the right words. We're speaking the same thing of just being emotion and nothing being focused, but being part of it. Like you were just, it is it. You don't have the question, are you doing it? You know the pull of the string, you know the pull of the bow back, the arrow back on the bowstring because you are trained and you're focused on nothing but just being there in the moment. And that's what
following your habits. A big part of archery is just developing good habits and then just replicating them repeatedly. So you're just repeating the same good habits, and assuming that you're not having any bad habits, like plucking the shot to the side while you release, your shot should in theory hit if you perform everything perfectly. The moment if you're an archer who has like a chronic bad habit and you start plucking constantly, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. Your shots are going to go to the left constantly because you keep plucking to the right. Or if you're a left-handed shooter, the reverse. You'd be like, oh, I keep plucking to the left, it keeps going to the right.
I think it's interesting because I did archery when I was a kid, but I actually went to knife throwing, which basically is just, unless you're very good at it, you're going to be dodging knives as they bounce back at you, which is hilarious because it's stupid as hell to do, but it does work. Now,
I have a knife throwing set. I just don't practice very often.
How much do you drive your wife crazy with your work?
She tolerates a lot, I think. We do have a rule that I'm not allowed to own more than a certain number of bows. So right now I'm at a point where I can't buy any new bows unless I sell a bow. So I have to sell a bow or break one before I can buy a new one. Uh, yeah, it's just
I was
my son. He's 3, and he's obsessed with archery now. So that's just another thing that's going on. So everything he sees, like, oh, he'll see a deer and he'll be like, oh, bow arrow, bow arrow. Uh, because he just now associates deer with like archery. So he's just like, oh, you got to shoot the deer. He sees a dragon, bow arrow, bow arrow.
so I wasn't talking about that, but that's adorable. I was more talking about you being a writer and you being in your world while being in your family's world. How does she talk? Like, for instance, if I say to my wife, "Well, I wrote this, this, this," she'd be like this. Then like, be like, "All right, you lost me half an hour ago."
So I actually did do something like that earlier today. I was telling my wife about a chapter that I finished writing today, and she kind of just tried to like. She was like, "Oh, stop talking. You know, I just want to tune this out." She didn't even want to listen to it because I was talking to her about stuff, and she just didn't want to listen to it at the time. And then there'll be other times where I'll start talking to it, and she's actually in the mood to listen. So it really depends. And then she'd be like, "Oh, like I'll be talking about like a D&D game, for example, and she'd be like, "Oh, what happened during your game?" And then I'll tell her all the things that happened in the game, and there you go. And other times she'll be like, "Yeah, I don't really want to ask you about your game right now. I've just got too much stuff on my mind." So it's like any person, like they're not always interested in listening.
I have to force my wife to read my stuff. Okay, so I put my book in the one place in my house where I guarantee to get someone to read, in my bathroom. Someone's gonna read in there. And
I was guessing it was that. Unfortunately, my wife keeps Sudoku books in there, so if she's in the bathroom for a long time, she's just playing Sudoku.
you know what? Have you?
I had friends used to, but she used to keep Wizard of Id, I think it's called.
That sounds familiar.
Remember those cartoons, those little like cartoon books and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they also had this one about a caveman. Oh shoot! It was just all these cartoons about a caveman.
Yeah.
Oh, and then what's his name? There's this one Viking one, like Hagar the Horrible.
Yes, yes. I remember.
Yeah. So yeah. So they just kept comic books in their bathroom. So if you're in the bathroom and you're bored, you just pick up Hagar the Horrible and start reading that. And honestly, that was just one of the fun things about like visiting my friends. They're like, okay, you got really good reading material in the bathroom. I just want to stay in there and keep reading.
Let me ask you this: how many copies of your books have you actually given away?
There's ebook copies that I've definitely given like hundreds away. I haven't actually kept track of how many ebook copies I've given away. The physical books, like I remember last year, I gave one of the physical books, like one of the paperbacks, to my sister. But to be fair, I dedicated the book to my sister, and I gave her a copy and said, "Hey, here you go." And then she opens it, and my mom looks at the dedication, and she's like, "Oh, he dedicated this book to you. Oh, okay." So there you go. That particular book had vampires and stuff like that in it. So, and my sister was like really big into vampires when she was younger. So
we're gonna touch right on that. I'm a giant fan of vampires. That's why my friends would never let me play a vampire in D&D. Well, I also have Curse of Strahd, and I'm going to take my players one day and make them make players in that character zone and destroy them. With vampires, what form of vampire sounds right? The Bram Stoker, the Anne Rice, the Twilight. What is your version of vampire that sounds right? That seems close to it.
I definitely have a Dracula version within my world. It's similar to like a cross between like Lord Strahd from the Ravenloft, and then similar to Dracula himself. So it follows that same sort of storyline, but there's definitely changes to the plot and everything, so that it's more complicated there. I ran a D&D game. Was that last year? Year and a half ago? Like, it took a while to run it. So I think I might have started it like around Halloween the one time, and then I kept running it. It took a while to finish, and it was a case of it was very. I went a little bit extra detailed beyond the normal Curse of Strahd type stuff, but it was fun. I ran that adventure, and it was enjoyable. I don't want to go into too much details there because there's a chance that aspects of that will end up in a future Lilith Bloodstone story.
Nice.
Because one of my goals is to have that character visit that region, and then I would be borrowing aspects from the game that would end up in her story version of it. So as far as I'm concerned, it'd just be like an alternate timeline version.
I think it's been over 2 years, maybe more, since I actually was a PC. I think. Because I do know my first book, Lotus, was when I was a PC, except I was playing a Full Metal Alchemist vampire from the anime, and my brother put me in a room with the Grim Reaper, in a room covered in cum, and he had been screwing a hook. My brother was very high and drunk that night, and he says, the Grim Reaper wants the titanium. Platinum. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just make them platinum. All what's around me, just sperm. I'm like, so, mind you, most people would give up in this situation. I look up what's in sperm. There's zinc. Convert the zinc into platinum. There you go. That was the stupidest thing I ever did in D&D, but that character Lotus turned out to be an actual character I actually ended up using. So it's amazing what D&D opened. Mind you, R.A. Salvatore, the Dritz Chronicles, kind of beat us to the punch with the whole using D&D in her books. But I mean, he wasn't bad. I
have a fun question for you. How do you pronounce Drow or Drow?
Drow.
You say Drow?
Yeah, it's tomato at this point.
Okay. Now here's my issue. The original Old English version is pronounced troll.
Mm-hmm.
Troll. It's a soft DT sound, kind of like when you say congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually pronounced troll. So it's like a DTROW.
I would never do that. That would drive me crazy.
And okay, so the proper pronunciation is really closer to bro. And the funny part here is that this is the same root word as the word for troll. Okay?
Dude,
So dro and troll are from the same root word.
That's entirely that would drive me crazy. I'm a horrible writer because I did not do it so for instance, people who go to school and actually do write and do everything properly, they're scholared writers. I'm a rogue writer where I should have paid attention more in English class, and now I have to relearn all that shit. So it is hilarious.
I didn't learn that I didn't learn that in English class. I learned that at a Dragon magazine years ago.
Oh god.
So that's actually from Dungeons and Dragons. It's just an old Dragon magazine where they're talking about monsters from the British Isles that were popular in folklore. That's it. And so I didn't even have to do the research necessarily. I just had to read the article.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, so that's where Drow comes from, and so does trolls. And then afterwards, I ended up doing the research and learning more about these aspects. I was like, okay, these are just things. But you could do this now. Like, all you have to do is go on like Wikipedia or some other website like that and look up folkloric monsters and say, oh, there's these weird water horse things from Scotland that have like dead corpses on top of them, that it's all like one big form. What the heck is that? And if you know what I'm talking about, I can't remember what they're called right now, but it's actually a specific monster from Scotland. It's a one-piece thing with like, it kind of looks like an undead centaur in a way.
I use the kitsune folklore Japanese yokai, I think they're called, as an actual race in one of my books. One of the characters is half one of them, and it's like a transformation between human into like a werewolf stating, but fox on hind legs. But using the real world and what's there, let's go a little deeper into craziness, just for the hell of it. What is the one thing that you personally actually believe could be possible and it terrifies you? Like, go as far as you want.
Something that terrifies me. Like I there's definitely lots of things that I believe exist or existed,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't say that they terrify me.
Sure.
Yeah, it's more of a case of like, oh, that's an interesting thing that happened. I'll bet you that would be good for a book. And then it's just like, oh, well, you know, it's just a thing that happened, and we don't know much about it. I'll give you an example. Have you ever heard of the Sea Peoples?
The what?
The Sea Peoples.
Yeah.
By that I mean like ocean, sea, lake.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Sea Peoples were these groups of people that attacked Egypt during various raids against the Egyptians, and then destroyed Egyptian civilization. Basically, it thrust them back into the Stone Age, where they like, you know, they had all this, you know, stuff going on for them, and then the Sea Peoples came along, basically attacking them like Vikings. And the first couple raids weren't such a big deal, you know, like we were playing this and that, and you know, whatever. And then the third one came along, the third war with the Sea Peoples, and they lost big time. They basically came along and killed everybody, looted the whole place. And Egypt was thrust back into the Dark Ages, or the Stone Age, effectively. And that was the end of Egyptian civilization. It would take hundreds of years for them to like rebuild and, you know, build new cities and all the stuff that came afterwards. But it wasn't Egyptian anymore. Other people had basically moved in. So that was the end of the Egyptians. They were just gone by then. So when you look up the and try to research the Sea Peoples, there's like all these different theories of where the Sea Peoples came from.
Yeah.
And they refer to various names of what the Sea Peoples were, and one of them was called the Weshesh. And they didn't know where the Weshesh came from. They don't really describe it. But I have a theory that it's further west in the Mediterranean, possibly on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. So would it be Spain, France, and possibly even as far north as Wales? So my theory goes that it's actually the Welsh. Could you imagine that if the Welsh had attacked Egypt in prehistoric times and then thrust them back into the Stone Age because they just beat them so badly?
I think that there's more to us and the world than we know. And I think we're conditioned not to ask and not to believe. But I've noticed that complete belief in something to be true, whether it be God, whether it be country, or whether it be your own abilities, if you have no doubt, unquestioned, and you know you can do this, and you manifest that, yeah, it comes back doing that. I mean, asking for help from a deity, patron saint, does take care of it pretty quickly for you. And that was actually considered a superpower of humans. One of the superpowers was religion. All right.
And we're back.
Yes, we are back. So, hold on one sec. Taking that, telling that. Okay, so basically, what you just told me, I never knew. I personally believe that Lovecraft was onto something, and he actually found out there's a lot of truth to what's crazy in the world, and that freaks me the fuck out, to be honest with you.
Oh, I learned something interesting today.
Oh, God. Please don't tell me you found.
Are you familiar with Conan the Cimmerian?
What's that?
Conan the Cimmerian,
What the hell is that?
also known as Conan the Barbarian.
Okay, that you're gonna tell me Conan's real now?
No. Cimmeria was a real place.
Oh yeah, the ancient Sumerians. Didn't he speak Babylonian? Or is it Babylonian speak?
No, it was a region on the east side of the Black Sea called Cimmeria.
Okay.
But there's a problem here. That's not how it's pronounced.
Oh boy.
According to archaeologists, which in the video that I watched earlier today, they kept pronouncing it Kimmeria. But it was spelt Samaria. And I'm watching this going like, why do they keep pronouncing it that way? And I'm like, oh, is it actually meant to be pronounced Conan of Samaria?
What the hell?
It was weirding me out. I was like, if Robert E. Howard based this on Chimeria and spelled it the same way, I have to wonder if his original pronunciation for it was actually Conan of Chimeria and not Conan of Samaria. It blew my mind. I was just like, there's something going on here. I don't understand. It just ruined my whole impression.
I gotta ask you a question. Has anyone ever called you quirky ever in your life?
Probably.
Okay, no, it's not a bad thing. It's just so I'm now feeling what many have felt when I bring something up. So you have an excitement about something that's singularly sometimes to your thought pattern. I pick up on it, but I partially followed it, partially didn't, because it's something that you're portraying and I can objectively partially understand it, but also I'm like outside of it. So basically your enjoyment of that came from the hilarity of how the English language fucks everything up in a nutshell. And I understand that.
Yeah,
but
that's part of it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting what level you go into that. And so basically, I do have to get this ending because I have children that are dying to tackle me outside that door. So first and foremost, you are a genius. I want you to know that. Your paintings are magnificent. I've studied art for years. Magnificent, love it. Your books, I'll probably start reading them for a while, but I have a list. I mean, right now, for my own books, I'm reading How to Speak with the Dead, Practical Handbook. Really freaking good. Read it. It's awesome. But I do want to keep reading your work. You are a highly talented individual, very good at what you're doing, and you play.
I'm currently reading this one.
What the hell is that? What is that?
It's Fire and Sword by Dylan Deuce. It's probably just reversed because of the way that Instagram works.
Oh, yeah.
So it simply just looks weird.
All right. So now I know I've already convinced you to read at least one of my books. I will get you to read one of them. Besides that, though, what would you like to say to people who would watch this? Anything at all? What do you want to say to them? What do you want to say to them?
Just enjoy the story. Just, read books and enjoy the story. It's you get nothing else out of it. You just, at least you enjoy it. I would hate for people to read a story and then not enjoy it. I have read a few bad stories and be like, this story is not really that good. I think I hate this author.
So Stephen King.
And
Got it.
no, not that one. I don't like to mention the names of authors that I don't like.
Okay, fine.
For 2 reasons.
Fine.
One, I don't want to accidentally advertise them. And 2, I don't want them getting revenge. So I'm just not going to mention them at all.
You know what? Here you go. Stephen King. Come at me, bro. Come at me. I'm not. No, seriously. If Stephen King wanted to have a write-off with me, I would take his fucking ass. Give me a topic. I'll scream his ass. I do not care about that motherfucker. The only motherfucker I have respect for, but I would never want to hear again, motherfucking Edgar Allan Poe. I have respect for him because he read and wrote about everything. I once listened to an audio tape of him describing how he reviewed a chair. 46 hours of Poe, and I tapped out. Well, the worst part is, his best story was he didn't finish it. It pissed me off. It's the one where there's an island and he meets death, but he just never finishes it.
That sounds like the one Pablo Picasso painting that he actually hated, but it's actually one of his most famous paintings.
He
considered Guernica to be a failure, and he hated it.
I have songs like that where people like and I hate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Picasso could not stand that painting. He just hated it, and then he never did another mural again because he just hated murals after that.
Well,
it just ruined it for him.
I think he was just a miserable fuck. I think he was just one.
In his old age, he was basically just printing his own money because he just started drawing nudes all the time, just like 15-second nude sketches, and then he was selling them for like $10 or $20 a pop. So he could do like 20 of those in a day, or even an hour, whatever, and then he'd sell them easily through brokers that he knew, and everybody just wanted a Picasso, even if it was only just a $10 or $20 Picasso. So he just sold hundreds and thousands of those. It's the reason why he has over 50,000 paintings attributed to him, because he just mass-produced all these sketches later in his career.
Nice.
He was basically just printing his own money.
So he was the very first hentai drawer. Nice. Very nice.
Not even. It was just like, oh, I have the nude model pose over here. I'll do 10 sketches of her, and then I'll call it a day. He basically he could have hired somebody else to do that. He didn't even have to do it himself.
Well, my friend Charles, I love this. I love you to keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to go hang out with my kids. Thank you. Bless you. And these will be up. Okay?
Well, I enjoyed doing this, and thank you for having me.
No problem. Anytime. I'll bring it back. Do something crazy and kooky. Actually, next time what you're going to do is, if you do come back, you're going to show us something that you're doing and what you can actually teach people. It's a new thing I'm going to do. My guests are actually going to show me their process of something. So maybe it's how you build a character. Even if you show people how to put a D&D character together, it's just something to think about. Okay?
I need to make a map sometime for a literary thing I see that I'm working on.
Well, there you go.
So that would be fun.
We can coordinate.
To actually be working on the map.
There you go. All right. Salutations, sir, and you be good. All right. And now I got to...
Have a good evening.
You too. Now I got to figure out how to end this thing. Sometimes I hate technology.
I just pressed the little X thing until it stopped.
Yep. I just found it.